What's up, my YT homies? This is Alethea, and I'm coming in at you with another video. And this video, of course, is something different from what I do on my channel. And I actually don't even really know where to start or what to say for that matter. But I'll start with a little bit of background information on myself. Those of you who are new to my channel that may have found this video and came to my channel because of this video, well, you don't know, but I'm a high school teacher. And to those of you that have been here on my channel, you know that I am a high school teacher. I have been teaching now, this is my 9th year, and I have been teaching at the same high school since I started my educational career. I am certified in special education as well as middle grades ELA and high school ELA. Throughout the time of me being a high school teacher, I have seen where students that have graduated from the school I teach at, end up losing their lives untimely, as well as there have been some students that, while the school year has been going on, have lost their lives untimely. With that being said, we don't always teach every student. And when it comes to the students that have graduated since I've been teaching and they lost their lives, I didn't have them as students. And those people, when I say untimely deaths, they lost their lives to something that was, I don't want to say out of their control, but they lost their lives to the hands of someone else. And I kind of hate to say it that way, because when it comes to suicide, you don't know what it is that has made a child choose to take their life. So with that being said, 2 years ago, I had a young man. I was teaching 10th grade literature at the time, 10th grade literature and journalism, and I had a young man that was in my class. And as a teacher, let's be real, we come across all types of students. We come across students that we're like, oh my God, here this student comes. I'm just being real, because some students, come in and they think school is fun and not for academic purposes. And, you have sometimes tug of wars or whatever with them. And then you have those students that come in the classroom and they are so quiet, you can't get them to say anything. And it's like pulling teeth to talk to them. And then you have those that are like right there in between. And sometimes they'll talk or what have you, but for the most part, they do their work, they do what they're supposed to do. And the goal is for, of course, all students to do their work and do what they're supposed to do. And with that being said, I'm a big disciplinarian. Even with the students that come in my class that kind of act up in the beginning, once they learn my expectations, they simmer down. Some still go on, we're gonna have that battle. But I mention all that to say that throughout the time of being a teacher, we get close to some students and closer to others, and some students we never develop a relationship or rapport with. But usually with most of my students, I'm able to develop a rapport, because while I'm a big disciplinarian, I am also personable with them, but not too personable, and I open my door to them. But going back to this young man, 2 years ago, he walked into my classroom, and he was one of the best students to this day that I can say that I have had in my educational career. He did his work. He would participate in classroom discussions. He would even challenge me at times when we would have classroom discussions and things like that, but he never was rebellious or anything. But he was, like I said, he was one of the most active participants. He made good grades. He cared about his grades, and he cared about his progress. He was on our wrestling team, and he was not a big fellow. So most of the time people think about wrestling, they think of someone being big. And so the next year, which was last year, with him going into the 11th grade, I recommended him for AP Language Arts, accelerated prep or advanced placement. It just depends on what district you're in, what it's called. So I recommended him for it, and he ended up being in my class. And one of the things that I do, I tell the students from the very beginning, because most of them automatically assume a student has to be smart to be an AP. But what is smart? Someone that makes 100s all the time, someone that never makes a B, someone that never makes a C. But I let them know that it's not the smartest students that end up in AP, it's the dedicated hard workers that end up in AP. And if you know, because a lot of our students have outside activities or they work, and I tell my students from the beginning, if you feel like being in here where we're going to do more writing and more aggressive tasks, if you feel like being in here is too much for you, I won't be upset if you change and go to another class period. You can come to one of my other class periods if it fits in your schedule, or you can go with another teacher that's teaching American literature. With that being said, that student came to me and he said that, Miss Latimer, my load is going to be too heavy. I already have AP history and I feel like this one would be too much for me. So I'm going to see if I can get changed to one of your other class periods. Well, it wouldn't fit in his schedule, and he ended up going with the other teacher that was teaching American literature. So I ended up not having him last year. But I mentioned that with him not being in my class to point out also that even though, and it's just like this year with students that I've had in the past, even though they don't end up in my class, they still come to my class. They still speak to me. They see me in the hall, they speak to me. They see me in the hall, they give me hugs sometimes. They talk to me and all that. And every time he would see me, he would, you know, speak to me. Hey, Miss Latimer, how you doing? Or he would come to my room and he would speak to me. Or when they were working out, because they would run in the school for their workouts before wrestling, and I would see him in the hall sometimes, you know, working out for wrestling. The last conversation I had with him was during our AP testing, because when students have AP courses, they have a test at the end of the year. And recall I said that he had AP US history, and I proctored the AP US history exam, and the AP US history teacher proctored my AP language exam. So while he was in there, and he's a firm believer in what he believes in, and he said that he didn't see the reason in taking the AP exam, and I kind of, you know, talked to him, went over there and tapped him on his shoulder and kind of rubbed his back a little bit, and I said, it's gonna be okay. I said, because you're gonna do good, you're gonna rock this test. So when the test was over, he left just like everyone else. And that was the last time that we had interaction other than me seeing him in the hall before the school year ended. So on July 21st, I went on Facebook and I saw where someone posted that a student from my school had killed themselves. A student on the wrestling team had killed himself. And I'm like, what are they talking about? I'm not going out looking. I don't see anything. So I didn't inquire, especially because the person that made the post doesn't even live here. They used to live here, but so I'm not saying that I felt like the post they made wasn't true. But I commented on the post. I said, what student? And she says, I don't know his name. So I had no idea. And I'm not going to say waited around to find out or to hear. But I went and I was going somewhere. So I was in the car and I was in the passenger seat. And one of my friends at work sent me a text message and asked me, did I know that particular student? And she had his name in a text message. And I'm not going to say his name for the purposes of anonymity, because I haven't talked to his parents or anything about, you know, making a video, because like I said, it wasn't in my plans to make this video sharing this experience. So when I saw his name, and I was like, no, don't tell me he's the one that killed himself. And she replied, yes. And I immediately started crying. I immediately started crying because I already felt a void, because one of the brightest faces that I would see at work was not going to be there. I automatically felt the void because as a parent of a 16-year-old, I felt sorrow for his mother and his father. I immediately started crying because I knew he was well liked at the school, and I knew the void would be there for his classmates, especially considering he would be a senior in the class of 2020, and he still will be a senior in the class of 2020. He'll be with us in spirit. Anyway, I broke down crying. I came home and I cried. And I cried the next day because my heart hurt. As a teacher, I care about what I do. I care about my job. I love what I do. And I want my students to succeed. And for a moment after that happened, I started questioning whether or not I wanted to stay in education. And I questioned that because, like I said, I hurt. I was heartbroken. Because here's a young person that I knew, that I taught, that I wished would have come and talked to me, so that maybe I could have helped him out of whatever dark place he was in, because I don't know what he was going through, what he was feeling. I don't know what caused him to take his life. I know what people say, but I don't know, because he didn't tell me out of his mouth what was going on. So I didn't know. I knew we were going back to school in like 2.5, 3. The students were coming back to school in about 3 weeks. They were about to be seniors, class of 2020, and one of their classmates was gone. So I didn't know how they were going to start the school year off. But they have done really, really good. And what prompted me, what made me go ahead and make this video today, we had our pep rally today. Our very first pep rally of the year, our fall pep rally. We have our first football game tonight. And I took off the shirt because his name was on it. But the students had some shirts made, and we wore the shirts to the pep rally in memory of him. And some of his family members did make it to the pep rally, and we had a moment of silence for him. And I automatically was sad once again, because I thought about it again, that he was not there, and he's not going to be there with us this school year. For me as a teacher, I don't even want to say for me as a mother, because as a teacher, this was something I wasn't expecting. This was something that I never thought would happen. And when it happened, it made me really just think about my students and how they interact with me. And some would say that I'm popular with the students, because they come to me, they talk to me and all that, and I just wish he would have come and talked to me. But I always have told my students that they can come and talk to me about anything. And for those of you that are educators, for those of you that are teachers, or for those of you that, even if you aren't teachers, but you work in an educational field, don't shut your students out, because you never know what is going on with that child. You never know what's going on with that child when it comes to their friends, when it comes to their jobs, because there are a lot of teenagers that work now. There are a lot of them. So you never know what's going on. You never know what could be affecting them and their lives. So as educators, as teachers, and some people don't get it. Some people don't understand that as a teacher, your title may be teacher, but you are so much more than that to some of these students. Because as a teacher, regardless of whether the student is a bad student, a smart student, a clingy student, because there are clingy students, there can be bad students, or hyper students, whatever you want to call them. There could be those real smart students, the ones that just talk. You can have all type of students, but at the end of the day, if they're in your care and they're in your classroom, they are your student. And regardless of what type of rapport you have with them, you're going to develop one, be it positive or negative. And the hope is for it to be a positive relationship, and for you to have a positive impact on those students, and for them to be able to come to you. I have an app that I use called Remind that my students can reach out to me on. But even when I'm at work, sometimes when lunch is going on, when my planning period is going on, before my classes start, in between classes, there are always students that are coming. And as I told you before, my students from the 10th grade to 11th grade, some of those students I had 2 years in a row, and some of them thought that I was going to move to teach multicultural lit. But I said, no, I'm staying where I'm at. But I do extras in the school, so therefore I still have interaction with them. This video is going longer than what I want it to go, but I just want to say to any teacher out there that may have experienced what I've experienced, we're human. It's okay. It's okay to have a relationship with your students, and it's okay to care about your students, as long as it's in a caring and nurturing way and no other way. It's okay for them, or it should be. Let it be okay for them to come and talk to you. Sometimes teachers don't want students to talk to them about certain things, because if they come and tell them certain things, we have to report things. But don't worry about that extra piece of paperwork, because that could be the difference between your student being here today and not being here tomorrow. When those students come to your door to talk to you, even if you can't talk to them at that moment, let them know it's okay to come back later. Be there for them. Have an open door policy when it comes to your students. Because I'm going to be truthfully honest. It hurts and it saddens me. And I can't help but a part of me wonder, what could he have been? Who could he have been? Who could he have helped in his lifetime? I will say this, one of the things that his sister said, his balloon releasing ceremony after his funeral, she said, I don't want y'all to think my brother gave up. He tried. He really tried. And I can truly say through her saying that and knowing that he did try, I can only be at peace with that. Because only that individual knows how much they can handle and when enough is enough. I just know as a teacher, as a professional, as a parent of my own child, that I hope as long as I'm in education, I'm able to have relationships with my students to where if they so choose, that if they were to get into the same situation, that they would be able to come and talk to me. Pray for our students. Pray for our youth. Pray for strength and mental clarity for them, and pray that they're able to handle whatever life throws their way. With that being said, I'm gonna get out of here.